Lists are one of the 4 inbuilt data structures in Python. Let's learn what they are and how to use them today. Data structures are structures that hold collections of data. There are different standard data structures and they differ in how you store data, how you retrieve data, and what operations are possible on them. In programming languages, you are free to create any data structure you want. But in most programming languages, including Python, you are provided with some inbuilt data structures to make things easier. Python has 4 such inbuilt data structures. Let's take a look at one of them, which is the list data structure today. For today's lesson, instead of writing things in a Python source code file, I'm going to use a Python shell. It's a really fast way to research things in Python. With Python shell, you can execute Python statements one by one in the terminal. And when executing, the output of each statement will be printed below as well, which makes this really powerful when you are learning Python or exploring solutions for a problem. To start the Python shell, assuming you have Python installed in your system, just type Python in your terminal and press enter. To exit the shell, first of all, you can just close the terminal window. Secondly, you can type exit, open in and close in parentheses and press enter, which will get you out of Python shell and put you back on your regular terminal. Thirdly, you can press Ctrl D on your keyboard, which again will do the same thing. Okay, we are good to go now. A list is a dynamically sized data structure that can hold any array of elements. To define a list, you can write the opening square bracket, then the elements in the list separated by commas, and finally the closing square bracket. In the real world, you might want to assign this to a variable as well. One important thing is that these elements can be any arbitrary type and they don't have to be of the same type. For example, we can define a list that contains a string, a few integers, and also a none. Lists can also hold any other data structure inside as well, such as another list. So we can define a list inside another list if we wanted to. Once you define a list, you can access any elements in the list using this notation. The name of the list followed by an index in square brackets. Very important to know that Python, like many other languages, uses zero-based indexing. So if you want the first element, you should use 0 as the index. So to access the nth element, you would use n-1 as the index. If you give an index larger than the length of the list, you will get an error saying that you entered a value that is out of range. Again, note that if the length of the list is 5, colors 5 will also give you an index error because the last element's index is actually 4. Next, let's say you want to access the second element from the end of the list. Python has a convenient way of doing this by using negative numbers. To get the second element from the end of the list, you would use -2 as the index. Because you don't have -0, or rather -0 and 0 are the same thing, when you use the negative notation, it's not 0 based. So to access the last element, you will use -1. In our colors list, colors -1 will return the same data as colors 4. Similarly, colors -2 return the same data as colors 3. It's just a convenient of accessing elements from the end of the list. Similar to forward indexing, if you use a backward index that's out of range, for example, in our case -6, you will again get an index error. Unlike many other languages, Python has a very powerful operation on lists called slice operation. Instead of accessing one item from the list, you can use the slice operation to access a portion or a slice of the list. Let's see how to use it. The first form of slice operation takes 2 indexes inside the square brackets divided by a colon character. When you apply this operation, you will get a list that contains the elements from the lower bound index until the upper bound index. It's very important to notice here that the result does not contain the element at the upper bound index. This is a very common behavior in Python that you will come across in other places as well. The lower bound is an inclusive bound, which means the element at the lower bound index is included in the result, and the upper bound is an exclusive bound, which means the element at the upper bound index is not included in the result. There is another form of the slice operation that takes a third argument. If you provide a third argument again separated by a colon, you define a step value. So if you say step 2, your result will contain every other element in the original list. You can use any step value you want, and the slice operator will step over the list and get you only the elements that it lands on. With both of these forms of slice operation, instead of an integer index, you can either put none or keep that position empty as well. If you keep the lower bound empty, slice will start from the beginning of the list. So keeping the lower bound empty is the same as using 0 as the lower bound. If you keep the upper bound empty, slice will end at the end of the list, including the end element as well. So keeping the upper bound empty is as same as using length of the list plus 1 as the upper bound. If you keep the step empty, slice will step by 1, just as if you haven't used the step argument at all. Note that you can keep multiple arguments empty as well. Another useful feature of slice operation is negative step values. In that case, the slice operation will try to get to the end index from start index by decreasing the index by the given step amount. For example, if you say to go from 4 to 0 with step value minus 2, it will start at 4, then go to 2. Again, the end index is not inclusive. So we will stop at 1 in this case, so the 0th element will not be printed. To include that as well, what you can do is just ignore the end index. When you ignore end index, as we discussed, it means that it includes everything till the end. In our case, the end of the negative step is the beginning of the list. Since we are starting from the end of the list, we also don't need the first index as well. One cool use of negative indexing is using -1 as the step value. In this case, you are stepping through the list one by one from the end. So if you do this, you are going from end of the list to the beginning of the list one step at a time, effectively getting you a reverse of the original list. There are 3 more very important things to remember about the slice operation. First, just like you can use negative numbers when accessing single items, you can use negative numbers for lower and upper bounds. If these numbers translate to a correct range, Python will give you the expected result. Second, if you use integers as arguments as expected, slice operation never throws an error, even if you use out of bound values. If the argument doesn't make any sense or if it doesn't result in a proper range, the slice operation will gracefully give you an empty list without throwing an error. The third point is that the slice operation always returns the slice as a copy. So your original list is not changed when slicing. Because of this, if you want to make a copy of your list, you can do that by using myColors equals colors colon inside the square brackets. As I've said, keeping the lower bound and the upper bound empty here will give you a new list from the beginning to the end of the original list. So it will be an exact copy of the original list containing all the elements. Why is making a copy useful? You can modify items in a list as well. By copying, you can keep the original data as a copy in a separate variable if you want to when doing modification to the original list. I want to remind you again, instead of doing this, if you did myColors equal colors, here you are assigning the same data in the memory to 2 variables. Both of these variables point to the same data. Variables are just labels for data in the memory. Okay, that's how you access items in a list. Once you define the list, you can add item to it later on as well. There are 3 ways you can add items to a list. The first method is to use the append method in the list. We'll talk about what methods are and how a structure like list can provide functionalities for us by exposing methods. But for now, think of methods as some functionalities written in a structure like a list. In this case, append method is some functionality inside the list structure which helps us to add items to it. To call a method of a structure, we will use the dot notation. Let's add a new color to our list. To do that, we will do colors.append, and inside the parentheses we can give a new element we want to append to the list. As the name suggests, this method will append the given value to the end of the list, as we can see here. Let's say you want to append multiple items to your list once, but you cannot give multiple items to the append method. Let's try to give the multiple items to the method as a list. As expected, append considers this as one entry and appends the whole list as one item to the list. But list has another method that can help us with this, called extend. Extend takes a list as its input and appends each item one by one to the list. Instead of appending items at the end, you might also want to add items at any arbitrary location to the list. To do that, we have insert method. The insert method takes two arguments. First is where you want to insert, and the second is what. Insert method inserts the item in the given location and shifts everything in front forward. Insert method also accepts backward indexes as well. It uses the same indexing logic as when you are accessing items. One difference is insert method doesn't throw any error even if you give it an index that's out of range. If it's too far to the right, it will insert the item at the end. If it's too far to the left, it will insert the item at the beginning. To remove items from a list, there are actually 4 methods. First of all, if you want to clear out all the elements in a list, you can use the clear method. Instead, if you want to remove one element from a specific location, you can use the pop method. Pop method takes an integer as an argument for which index you want to pop. Additionally, the pop method gives you back the popped element, which you can print or assign to a variable. Similar to other methods that we looked at that takes an index, pop method also takes negative indexes. It works exactly the same way. Also, the integer argument of pop method is optional. If you didn't give it any argument, pop method will remove the last element from the list. As we've seen, you can use the pop method when you know the index of an element or if you want to remove the last element of a list. Instead, if you want to remove a known element without knowing where it is, you can use remove method. Remove method takes one argument which you want to match with and removes the first element in the list that matches with that argument. So remove method effectively goes from left to right and checks the elements against the argument using equals equals operator. Whenever it finds a match, the item is removed and the search is stopped. Two important points about remove methods are it doesn't return anything unlike the pop method, and also it only returns the first item from the start. It doesn't remove all occurrences. The final way to remove an element from the list is using del statement. This is not a method inside the list structure, but it is a special functionality of the Python language. To delete an element from the list, first type del in lowercase, then a space and the accessor. For example, if you want to delete the second element from our list, you can do that by typing del colors1. However, make sure to be careful with del statements. You can delete any data that you defined in your program. For example, if you do del colors, you will be deleting the complete list, not the data in the list. After deleting colors, there's no such variable as colors anymore. Del statements can also be used with slice operation as well. In this case, the elements that the slice operation returns will be deleted from the original list. So if you actually want to delete all the data in the list, you can use slice accessor. So del colors : will delete all the data in the colors list. There are various other things that you can do with lists. For example, get the maximum or minimum value in a list, get the first occurrence of a matching item, calculate the sum of a numeric list, reverse a list, and many more. There are actually way too many functionalities available that I can't cover everything in this video. Since all of these utility functions can be used with not only lists but other data structures as well, we will go through them in future videos. But I want to throw in two arithmetic operations you can use with lists as well to get you started here. First of all, you can use the plus operator between two lists, in which case you will get a new list that contains the content of both lists, effectively concatenating the two, similar to using plus operator in string data. You can also use the plus equals operator if you are assigning the result to the same variable. Secondly, you can use multiplication operator between a list and an integer. In this case, again very similar to string data, you will get a new list that has a repeat of the elements in the original list a given number of times. Again, you can use the multiplication equals operator if you are assigning the result to the same variable. There's one more very powerful feature in Python called list comprehension. Not only with lists, the comprehension feature can be used with all other inbuilt data structures in Python. But that topic is a bit more advanced, so we will cover that in another video. So make sure to subscribe to the channel so you will get notified when I cover that topic. For today, I hope you got a good understanding of the list data structure in Python and the various operations available with it. We will cover another Python's 4 inbuilt data structures in the next video. So this is it for today. Subscribe to ByteXY, like the video if you liked it. Thank you so much for your time and see you back soon.